I want you to imagine something with me for a moment. Pretend you are sitting at your kitchen table right now, and you push back the chair to stand up, your hands pressed down on the table for just a second, almost without thinking. Did you do that? If you did, this entire video was made for you, because that little push is not normal. It is one of the quietest symptoms of muscle loss after 60, and almost no one talks about it. And in more than 2 decades of working with older adults, I have heard that same story hundreds of times. They tell me the chair feels taller. They tell me stairs feel steeper. They tell me jars feel harder to twist open. They assume it is just getting older. But what I have learned, and what the research keeps confirming, is that something specific is happening underneath that feeling, and the cheap food sitting in your pantry right now may be quietly helping you. Here is the mystery I want to walk you through today. A real, evidence-based clue trail that doctors like me use every single week. The symptom is the chair push, the stair struggle, the sudden weakness in your grip. The hidden cause is something researchers call anabolic resistance, and it changes everything about how your body uses protein. The worsening factors are quietly common habits that millions of seniors repeat each morning without knowing the cost. And the solution is one humble, inexpensive food that delivers more usable protein per dollar than almost anything else in your grocery store. Let me start with the first clue, because this is where most seniors begin their own mystery. You eat eggs. Most of my patients over 60 still believe 2 eggs at breakfast is plenty of protein. A large egg contains about 6 grams of protein, according to USDA Food Data Central. 2 eggs give you roughly 12 grams. Add a sandwich at lunch and a modest portion of meat at dinner, and you may hit 40 or 50 grams by the end of the day. On paper, that sounds reasonable. So why are your muscles still shrinking? This is where the second clue appears. The problem is not really how much protein you eat across the full day. The problem is how much your muscles can actually use in a single sitting. A review by researcher Nathan Bird and colleagues published in 2013 described what they called anabolic resistance in aging muscle. The idea is simple but important. As you grow older, your muscle fibers become less responsive to the same amount of protein. The signal that tells your body to build new muscle gets weaker, almost like turning down the volume on a radio. You can send the same instruction into the muscle, and it just does not hear it as clearly. A 2025 review by Perez Castillo and colleagues expanded on this, noting that anabolic resistance means older adults often need a louder protein signal at every meal. So when you eat a small egg only breakfast, your muscles may only respond to a fraction of the protein inside it. Population studies, including a 2023 meta-analysis by Yuan and Volpe in the journal Preventive Medicine, found that sarcopenia affects roughly 10 to 16% of older adults worldwide. Research from 2010 by Von Heierling and colleagues showed the number climbs toward 50% in those over 80. But the number itself is not the most important piece. The warning signs appear early, often years before any diagnosis, and almost no one recognizes them as connected to protein. Now, here is the symptom most seniors notice but never connect to this hidden cause. You start losing your grip strength quietly, almost politely. You feel unsteady when you step off a curb. You walk slower without realizing it, and your balance quietly worsens. A 2024 study of Korean older adults by Han and colleagues, published in the journal Nutrients, found that lower protein intake was directly linked to both sarcopenia and lower hand grip strength. The grip is the canary in the coal mine, and very few people treat it that way. Instead, they buy jar openers and grab bars. All of those help, but they do nothing to address the cause underneath. The third clue, the one that surprised me most the first time I read it, involves a specific amino acid called leucine. Leucine is the tiny molecule inside protein that flips the switch for muscle building. Researcher Douglas Padden-Jones published influential work showing that older muscles need around 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in a single meal to fully trigger the muscle building signal. That may not sound like much, but if your protein source is low in leucine, you would have to eat an enormous portion to reach it. Most egg-only breakfasts cannot do it. Neither can toast with jam. Neither can a bowl of cereal. Even when you eat the right food, the wrong portion leaves the switch partially flipped, and the muscle quietly loses ground. So now the full mystery is laid out. The symptom is the chair push, the jar you cannot open, the stairs that feel taller. The hidden cause is anabolic resistance. The third piece is that most seniors eat protein in portions too small or too spread out to overcome that muted signal, even when their daily total looks reasonable on paper. But here is what bothers me most, because it is what most doctors will never talk about with you. The worsening factors sit quietly inside your morning routine, and you probably perform at least 3 of them every day. The first is skipping protein at breakfast entirely, eating only toast, oatmeal, fruit, or coffee with sugar. That removes your one chance to fire a loud protein signal in the morning. The second is eating protein in tiny portions, like 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, or a small bowl of soup because it feels like enough to a smaller appetite. The third is relying on expensive protein powders or bars, then stopping when the cost adds up, leaving you with nothing consistent. The fourth is assuming walking or gardening counts as enough resistance stimulus, when research from 2019 by Aikawa and colleagues showed that step reduction alone rapidly accelerates muscle loss in older adults. The fifth, the one I see most often in clinic, is eating most of your protein at dinner, leaving breakfast and lunch almost empty, so the anabolic signal fires only once a day. A woman I worked with, I will call her Margaret, was 72 when she came to see me. She followed exactly the pattern I just described. Toast with jam and tea for breakfast, a small sandwich at lunch, a modest chicken dinner. She told me she had been pushing herself up from the couch for nearly a year. She thought it was arthritis. When we measured her hand grip in the clinic, she scored in the lowest range for her age. That single test told me almost everything I needed to know. We did not change her medications. We did not start any supplements. We simply rebuilt her morning and added one specific food. That food is cottage cheese. And if you still think eggs are the gold standard for senior protein, the numbers may surprise you in a very welcome way. Per cup, regular cottage cheese contains roughly 24 to 28 grams of protein, depending on the fat level, according to USDA nutritional data. That is more than 4 times the protein of a single large egg. A half-cup serving still gives you around 12 grams. The leucine content of that same portion meets or exceeds the threshold that aging muscles need to fully respond to a meal, and the cost per gram of usable protein is among the lowest of any whole food at a typical American grocery store, often cheaper than chicken breast per gram and dramatically cheaper than most powders once you account for what your muscles actually absorb. Here is why cottage cheese works where other common breakfasts do not. 2 reasons. First, it is a complete protein, containing every essential amino acid your muscles require. Eggs are also complete, but a single egg falls short on total leucine per portion. Second, cottage cheese is slowly digested, releasing amino acids over several hours, so your muscle building window stays open across the morning instead of slamming shut after the first hour. A 2012 study by Kasperson and colleagues, published in the journal Clinical Nutrition, found that adding leucine, rich dairy protein, helped older adults overcome some of that anabolic resistance. Now, I want to be careful, because your situation may be different and your body deserves respect. If you have kidney disease, your doctor may have asked you to limit protein, and you should absolutely follow that guidance before making any change. If you have a dairy sensitivity, lactose intolerance, or you are on a sodium-restricted diet for blood pressure, plain cottage cheese may not be the right choice, but you can still benefit from the same principles using low-sodium varieties or alternative leucine-rich foods like lentils, which provide around 18 grams of protein per cooked cup, along with fiber and iron at a fraction of the cost of meat. If you take a blood thinner like warfarin, keep your vitamin K intake steady and tell your doctor about any major dietary change, especially if you add large amounts of leafy greens at the same meal. Here is where the mystery resolves into a practical pattern, the same one I share with every senior patient I counsel, and the same one that helped Margaret stand up without the chair push within about 6 weeks. Eat approximately 25 to 30 grams of complete, leucine-rich protein at breakfast, not at dinner. A half cup to 1 cup of cottage cheese with a slice of whole grain toast and some fruit accomplishes this in under 5 minutes. Repeat a similar portion at lunch, perhaps layered with vegetables or paired with a warm lentil soup. Aim for a final protein-rich dinner that brings your day total somewhere near 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, which for most adults over 60 means roughly 65 to 90 grams spread sensibly across the day. Walk for 10 minutes after each meal if you can, because light movement further amplifies the anabolic signal. Researchers like Padden-Jones wrote in 2014 that spreading protein intake evenly across meals produced noticeably better muscle outcomes in older adults than the same total front loaded into dinner. A 2015 review in the Journal of Clinical Medicine Research recommended approximately 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram daily for older adults aiming to preserve muscle. A 2022 randomized trial confirmed that even frail seniors in nursing facilities gained meaningful strength when protein was distributed across breakfast, lunch, and dinner instead of concentrated at the evening meal. Let me tell you about another patient. A man named Frank, 78 years old, once told me he had accepted that old age meant weakness. He had stopped going to his grandson's baseball games because he could not climb the stadium stairs without resting every few rows, and he was afraid of falling. He ate eggs most mornings because his wife prepared them, and he believed he was doing exactly the right thing. When we shifted his breakfast to cottage cheese with berries, added a small handful of walnuts at mid-morning, kept his lunch modest but protein-rich, and kept his dinner balanced, the difference showed up within 2 months. He sent me a photograph from the top of those same stadium stairs last spring, smiling beside his grandson. So what should you actually do starting tomorrow morning? First, check whether you have any of the symptoms I opened this mystery with. Do you push off the chair with your hands? Do your stairs feel steeper than they used to? Do jars feel harder to twist? Does your grip feel weaker on a doorknob or steering wheel? Those are not signs of lost dignity, and they are not just normal aging. They are early signals of muscle loss, and they respond when you give the body what it is asking for. Second, look honestly at your breakfast. If it contains fewer than 20 grams of protein, that is almost certainly the leak in your daily plan. Third, pick one leucine-rich food that fits your body, your budget, and your medical history, and use it consistently for at least 6 weeks before judging it. Cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, lentils, edamame, or canned tuna all qualify. Consistency matters far more than cleverness. A few cautions before we close this mystery. If you have any history of kidney problems, are on dialysis, or have been told by your doctor to limit protein for any medical reason, do not increase your intake without that conversation first. If you take medications for blood pressure, diabetes, or heart failure, adding higher protein foods may shift how your body manages glucose and fluid balance, so check in with your provider. And if cottage cheese or any dairy does not sit well with you, lentils, eggs in larger portions combined with another protein at the same meal, Greek yogurt, or fish are perfectly valid alternatives that carry the same leucine advantage without the cost of specialty products at the drugstore. Here is the part of the mystery that often gets overlooked, and I want to leave you with it, because this is the takeaway that matters most. The reason muscle loss feels invisible is because it happens slowly, almost politely, until the day you fall or cannot stand from the toilet without a real struggle. By then, the cost of recovery is steep, and the recovery itself is slow. The good news, and I say this from real patients I have followed across years, is that the body responds quickly when you finally give it the right signal. 25 grams of complete leucine-rich protein at breakfast, repeated across the day, paired with even modest movement, can shift your trajectory measurably within a few weeks. The chair push starts to disappear, the jars start to open, the stairs start to feel like stairs again. If this resonated with you, comment below with the symptom that surprised you most. Was it the chair push, the jar, the grip? Did you notice it in yourself or in someone you love? Tell me which clue hit closest to home, because that kind of comment helps me understand which clues matter most to you, and it helps other viewers recognize themselves in the same mystery. Subscribe to this channel if you want clear, evidence-based guidance on aging well without the hype, and stay close, because the next video walks through the exact morning routine I now use with my own family members over 60, including the simple protein swaps that cost under $1 a day and that any senior can begin tomorrow. Take care of yourself, and remember, the cheapest food in your kitchen may be doing more for your muscles than the expensive one you have been chasing. I will see you in the next one.